Welcome to our August regular Board of Education meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Paulette O'Brien.
Here.
Judy Shea.
Here.
Scott Latham.
Here.
John Green.
Here.
Brian Tobin.
Here.
In the event of an emergency, please advise that they may exit this room from the one side door which leads directly into the parking lot. In the event of an emergency, everyone is asked to move away from the building and do not attempt to leave in your automobile, since this may cause traffic problems and block incoming emergency vehicles.
Thank you. The first thing on our agenda is the first hearing of visitors. At this time, we will entertain comments and questions about agenda items only. Does anybody care to address the board at this time? Nobody. We just ask that you come down and say your name and where you live at the microphone, please.
Hello, my name is Megan. I'm a Southold community member and a mom of 3. A while ago, we were all made aware the school reopening plans would fall into the responsibility of individual schools. True leaders are proactive and collaborative with all of their stakeholder groups. The Board of Education and Superintendent chose to play it safe with our school reopening without seeking any public input with only 1 week before the first day of school. Correspondents from the district leadership failed to take action and noted they would be waiting guidance from the new governor. I guess you've gotten your wish, since the governor said yesterday that universal mask wearing would be required at all schools. Instead of demonstrating leadership and presenting a plan to the community, you've decided to take the easy way out and to not make a plan or take a stance. This is embarrassing. Where is the accountability? Parents and students have been waiting, but no communication has been given at all. We understand that plans are subject to change, especially with the new governor being sworn in. But this is not an excuse to not do your job. There has been no outreach to the community. I will continue to advocate for mask optional because the administration and school board has to know there's opposition to this. We have watched districts across Long Island, including Mattituck, develop comprehensive collaborative plans, including varying level of mandates based upon current data points. The NIH has a $42 billion budget. They have not spent a single penny since COVID started studying how masks affect kids. Other countries like the UK, Sweden, and Netherlands don't have mask mandates for school. Statistically, COVID poses almost no threat to our children at all. There was a study done by Emily Oster of Brown University, which looked at New York, Massachusetts, and Florida during the 2020 to 21 school year and found no correlation between COVID-19 rates and mask mandates. In elementary schools, especially, children have a lower tolerance to wearing masks and will most likely fail to use the mask properly. What are the psychological effects of forcing a child to wear a mask? Teaching that children that others and the air around them is unsafe and toxic. What does it do to a child's developing immune system having to wear a sweat, spit, and dirt-soaked mask every day? It's extreme cowardice that you would even consider a mask mandate for children, because it's not to protect them. They are safe. It's not to protect the adults. They've had the opportunity to get vaccinated if they want. To those of you who are concerned with the health implications and their loved ones with autoimmune diseases, compromised immune system, and those who fall into high-risk categories, we hear you and we see you. We have come together for over a year as a society to protect our most vulnerable. We empathize with you, as most of us have loved ones that are in very similar situations. But just as you are concerned with your family's well-being, I am concerned with mine and the effects of masking my young children 5 days a week for 7 hours a day. With this pandemic, we've seen high numbers of depression. Learning has been impacted, especially in young ones, as they learn to read and are focused on phonetics. There are many facets to consider. One of the most important things in all of this is respect. I respect your choice to wear a mask. I respect your choice in having your child wear a mask. And I would ask for that same respect back as my family makes the right decision for us. Just as I would never overstep my boundaries and tell another parent how to raise or discipline their child, I would never tell them to mask or unmask their child. It is a personal choice. When we're making a decision, We often ask ourselves, does the benefit outweigh the risk? There is no evidence that masking children 7 hours a day in school has any benefit in reducing the risk of COVID. However, there are many risks of forcing a child to wear a mask for an entire school day. Has the school looked into any other mitigations like smaller class sizes or increased central ventilation? Last year, there were 3 kindergarten classes. This year, there are only 2, with about the same number of total kids. I realize that most of what I'm saying now is a moot point because of the mask mandate that is now in place. However, my voice will not be silenced. Please know that I will continue to advocate for my children, and I will play an integral part in their education with the increasing regulations and upcoming vaccination requirements for students. Parents are the experts on their children, not the CDC, not the government, and certainly not career politicians. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else care to address the board at this time? Okay. We have a second hearing of visitors at the end of the meeting, so you certainly can come forward then. That brings us to our consent agenda, which is the approval of our minutes from our July 28th meeting, our financial matters, which are our bills, our treasurer's report, our monthly budget status report, transfers, extra classroom activity fund, some contracted services. We're surplusing some dehumidifiers and some cubicle panels, and there are no CSEs. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? I think I had one. Wait, I did have one. There's quite a big transfer to cover combined teams, and I just didn't know if there were additional teams or...
Do you want me to answer that one? That was
And you can get back to me on it, because I
know what it is.
Okay. It was quite large, that's...
We combined teams with Mattituck last year, and we had long-standing coaches in place. So we left them in their coaching schedules in Mattituck rather than shifting them to ours, because it would change their seniority here and time here and whether they're in our unit here and all those things. And I forgot to tell the business office is simply the reason for it.
Oh, okay.
So, when we worked this out to combine, we both were struggling with softball, and we wanted to keep programs in place and keep kids in place. We had an excellent, long-standing coach who had been there for many years. So I just solely forgot to tell
Went from-
Chuck.
Okay.
So we had to shift, he took that money out of our budget because he thought, or he put the money in because he thought it was going to be paid in a way that it wasn't.
Okay,
It
that
ends
makes
up-
sense.
Yeah, it ends up costing us all the same amount. It just has to come out a different way. That was my fault.
All right, that makes sense then. Thank you.
I apologize.
Are there any other questions on the consent agenda? Motion to accept. Second?
Second.
Is that Scott? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Old business? Do we have any old business? We don't have any old business, I don't think. Okay. Superintendent's report. Dr. Morrow?
So the superintendent's report was, to share information about, how we will be conducting school this year. We never closed school, so we have not developed a reopening plan. They're not required in New York State. There are districts that changed what they did in past years so vastly that they had to come in differently, and then there are others that, for liability reasons, they chose to have different plans. Ideally, we would like school to be as normal as possible. We will be coming back similar to the end of last year, and then we will be taking out everything that we are permitted to take out under the new guidelines. So we're not going to have barriers in school because the CDC has said barriers don't help and you don't have to have them. So and our kids have told us that they hate them, so we're removing them. We will have masks. I appreciate the expressions people in the emails have sent me, both supporting and both opposing the uses of masks in school, and I value all of their opinions. I'm not inclined to give people the impression that if they don't want to wear masks and we have a mandate, we have to. I believe that would be insulting, so I would not ask people for their input in matters that we don't have any say in. I do appreciate when people send me their feelings about things both ways. I respect them, I appreciate them, I like the fact that they're given. As of right now, pending guidance that's supposed to come from the state, and they do say guidance, not recommendation, we will be coming back very similar to last year, minus a bunch of things. We will only have to be 3 feet with masks, not 6, which will allow us to have a more typical number of students in places. If people do have their masks on, we will be able to stay in school, not have to quarantine, and not have to go remote, even if people test positive. These are the guidelines we've been given. As they are lessened, we will lessen them. We have no desire to be more strict than what we're told we have to be. And, my sole goal, I'm not, people send me a lot of medical information, and I'm a teacher, so I don't really evaluate. I read it and I appreciate it, and I like to read it, but I don't know what's right or wrong. Educationally, the guidelines we are given will only permit us to keep our kids in school if we don't have to quarantine them. And to not quarantine them, we are allowed 3 feet with masks. Without masks, we have to go 6 feet and either have to put kids on remote instruction or quarantine a great number of kids. So it's a difficult situation. So when we come back, I will be sending out a letter, and it will have a bulleted list, and we will be very fluid in what we do, and we will look to minimize as our numbers go down in the state, which we all hope they do, and they release us from responsibilities, then we will change our protocols and make them less restrictive. Our goal is to be back normal in the way that we have been. We're as normal as a society will ever be going forward. I don't know if normal will ever be kind of what I think normal is. So it'll be similar to the end of last year, but we will be minimizing everything we're permitted to minimize. 3 feet of distance, no masks outside. We've built an outdoor classroom behind the high school with AstroTurf and tables. We have 2 20 by 40 tents, one for the elementary and one for here, so that we can have outdoor classrooms, because the guidelines permit us not to wear masks outdoors. So we have not only built, but we are also renting tents to do outdoor instruction. We have an outdoor art room on the elementary and the amphitheater, and our goal is to try to minimize it as much as possible in a way that complies with the guidelines and allows us to keep our kids in school. Because as an educator, I can't educate them if they're not in school. So, that's where our plan is going. Something will go out tomorrow with a list of the things that are in place and no longer in place, so that it's very clear to understand. And that's where we're at.
It looks like, based on your enrollment figures, each of the buildings is down about 14 students from last year. Is that about right?
As of Thursday, from my last enrollment chart, we were down almost 30 in the district, 14 or 15 in each building. We've had ins and outs, some in, it's an ebb and flow right up to when we get to the start of school, which for us is Wednesday with kids. We have kids that will register Monday and Tuesday.
Well, we knew based on the graduation figures and the incoming, too, that that's
Yeah, when we compare K to 12, we're losing approximately 20 to 30 students per district for another 5 years, 4 or 5 years. Our averages in the elementary are in the 40s, whereas our average in the high schools and our graduating classes have been in the 70s. We do level out. We have a couple of very, very low grades in upper elementary, and then we go back up a little bit as we go down into the 40s and 50s. We have some in the 30s, and then we kind of stead off. We did remove an elementary position at the last board meeting because we didn't have the enrollment for it, and then we did not replace one of our retired elementary positions because we didn't have the students for it, and then we would add them if we needed, if anybody has 70 kindergartners that live in Southold and want to come, then we will add lots of teachers, and that would be perfectly great. So our enrollment is down 30 district-wide. Our fluctuation has not been as big as some of the East End school districts. I'm on the East End cluster with the superintendents, and there are some smaller districts that almost doubled in size and then lost 50% of that, going into next year. We have not had those ebbs and flows. They've been more, typical, 15, 20 students in each school.
So this isn't really a result of people being here for the year with COVID and then going back to their homes, or you think it could be some of
I
that?
think there was a little of that, but again, a little in Southold. Whereas in other places, I spoke to one very small South Fork district, they doubled. They doubled their population in 1 year. All people that owned homes that decided not to live in the city, to live out here. And, the city was remote most of last year. So their kids could come live in that district, and, they chose to keep them there. And we did have some of that, but in speaking with a lot of parents, we didn't have as much as some other places did. So I think a little bit of the effect comes from that, but I don't think that's some of our moves were right to local districts that were not, they weren't moving back to Manhattan. Because we have to send records, so we have a good idea where they go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep, also, I have had many people email me. If you have questions, if you want to call, if you want to email, it's a little bit of a hectic time, but I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. I'm more than happy to answer, any reason or rationale, and I completely understand if people don't agree with things that, as I may not agree with certain things that some people feel. It's, we're all entitled to our opinions, and I'm always open to having conversations with everybody or anybody about them. So please, feel free to reach out to me. I value opinions. I'm obligated, to follow the functions of the license that I hold in New York State when it comes to certain things that I say don't have to as a parent. But, I'm more than happy to have the conversations, and I've had conversations with people that don't agree with me, and they've been, very pleasant, polite conversations. We just, reasonable people can disagree, as I'm told by some of our board. So, please feel free to pick up the phone and call, or send me an email. I prefer talking, because then it's not a back and forth, and I don't miss something or anything like that. But, I'm always happy to have those conversations with anybody.
Thank you. Okay, now we have some personnel recommendations from the superintendent, and I will go through them and give these addendums to them. Employees leaving the district, full-time temporary, Lori Messina, the guidance leave replacement. Her resignation was effective today, August 24th, 2021. Employees entering the district, full-time permanent, we have Deirdre Mayer, who will be our new French teacher. Her 3-year probationary appointment. She's not starting till the end of September. Now I'm confused what the date's going to be.
It's not starting till the end of September because
Okay.
the
So
district that she's,
It's on the addendum date, not on the, okay, so September 27th. And then we have entering the district part-time permanent, Karen Vanessa Ramirez Torrento, who will be a lunch aide. And then we have full-time temporary, the guidance leave replacement, Regina Vandershoff. I'm getting better with names, huh? Effective August 26th through December 15th, 2021. And then we've got some part-time temporaries. We've got junior, senior high advisors, high school student council, driver's education. We've got 21, 22 coaches for the girls varsity softball, Kim Gerstung, and the varsity assistant, Dina Rose. And then we have a slew of substitute teachers, substitute aides, and substitute teacher assistants. I don't think I need to read all of those names, because there's always a lot this time of the year. Are there any questions on the superintendent's personnel recommendations? Is there a motion to accept the recommendations?
So moved.
Second, Judy? All in favor? Aye. That brings us to COVID-19 protocols. We need a motion to support or reject the superintendent's recommendations regarding COVID-19 safety protocols for the start of the school year. Is there a motion to accept? Is that John?
I'll second it.
Scott, and then John second. All in favor? Aye.
Comment, please.
Any opposed? Then you can comment. Any opposed?
Comment before we vote.
Okay.
I just would like to state that in order to accept this, I would like to make sure that with the masking mandate that is going to come down, that we look at every square inch of that and make sure that we have our children in masks the minimal amount of time possible throughout the day. And if we have to do things for that to happen, then we do our best to make them happen, especially for young children. That's what I would, as long as we are in agreement on that, then I will be
Absolutely.
okay accepting
I think
this.
it's kind of what we did last year, too.
Just want to say it.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We need a motion to approve our APPR recertification of lead evaluators, independent evaluators. Do you want to just talk about this, what this is, Dr. Moore, please?
So in New York State, you have to have an annual performance plan in place for all certificated employees. The last 2 years, many of the requirements for that have been waived because many of the pieces that would allow you to be utilized, like state assessments and things like that, and evaluations were waived. But we are required to annually recertify anybody who is part of the evaluation process for that plan. Recertification and recalibration just means that we make sure that we take the time to look at the guidelines, to train anybody that's new to the guidelines, and to make sure that when we are looking at something, we are seeing what we are supposed to see and evaluating in a way that is fair and appropriate when it comes to the evaluation tools. There are different groups, so there are different tools that are being used.
So we're not changing our APPR plan, we're just changing,
Nope.
we're
Yeah.
just approving the recertification.
Mhm.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept? Judy, is there a second?
Second.
Brian, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? District-wide safety plan.
So the district-wide safety plan was shared with everybody. It will be posted on the district website for a reading period. If there are any questions from anybody in our community, we can answer them. It is kind of a templated program from the state. There's addendums to it that were required as part of COVID to be added on there last year that were added. I do believe that it's been a couple of years since we have gone through it, so probably at some point in time this year, the district-wide safety committee will come together and do a full review of the plan to make sure that we are compliant with everything. It is like I said, it's a standard plan where there are certain pieces that you can write them lots of different ways, but the requirements are outlined by the state, and they give you a template, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to really change the language of it, because what you have to do and who you have to include and how you have to do it, certain stakeholders need to be part of it, certain law enforcement needs to be part of it. Certain parts should be posted very openly, and certain parts shouldn't, because posting some safety procedures makes it unsafe with school shootings and things like that. Like, putting a big red X on the building where we're going to go shelter doesn't go into a safety plan. Putting the fact that we would go and shelter if there was an emergency call would go in. So, the plan will be posted. Again, there's the requirements in the state are a 1-month waiting period. It will be approved at the board meeting after the next month. Any questions in between then can be sent to me, and I'll either give you or get you answers on whatever you could possibly need. And then, like I said, I think our safety committee will meet this year and really kind of go through the plan, as there were some things that were added mid-year that we got 15 days to put together and put on the plan, because they were related to things that we had never seen before, really. So
Forward, the board maybe in our packet this
I
week.
think we did, but we'll put it in the
Just
packet.
so we can look at,
It's on our website now.
okay, and then, because then we can accept it at our September meeting, that'll be the month.
The month,
Or does the month, when does the month?
got to be a month from when we post it, which,
Oh, okay.
it is posted now. It has to
Yeah.
be, it's been posted because it was updated during the year.
Okay.
A month from now, because we have announced that it is now posted to,
So either our September or October meeting.
Yeah.
we'll see if
Okay.
it's 30 days
Obviously,
from
what
now.
day the meeting is in September, it might.
It's got to be the, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But the plan is on there for anybody that wants to see, and it has been since the beginning of last year. The addendums were added in, do you remember when they required us to add them?
I don't.
March, April,
Yeah,
January?
it
I
was
can't
in the-
remember.
It was in the winter, during the winter.
Yeah, it's listed on there when we had to add them, and it's been on since. You're required to always have it posted. So if you want our website and you type in safety plan, it'll pop up because it's there.
And no action has to be taken tonight.
No action has to be
Okay.
taken tonight.
All right, thank you. Finance Committee report? Judy?
No report.
Building Committee report? John? Brian?
We have a new architectural firm, which we approved at our last meeting, and I believe they're going to be doing a building and grounds condition survey with our staff shortly, but we have not had a meeting since our last board meeting.
He's working on that now, right? He's working on the survey?
Yes, he's working on that, the 5-year building condition survey.
And then we'll meet right after he gets it.
Okay. Policy Committee report, Scott?
We have 6 policies for first read. One is a new policy, which is the voter registration for students. It's to promote voter registration. It's not actually registering them, but it's through the social studies classes, 10, 11, and 12th grade. They just want to promote voter registration and civic engagement. And the subsequent policies were revisions and updates. Transgender equal opportunity policy is in reference to bathrooms, that all single occupancy bathrooms will be gender neutral. Smoking and other tobacco use on school premises, surprisingly, you can't smoke weed in school. Child abuse, maltreatment, and neglect in a domestic setting, they added to the list of mandated reporters. And if CPS comes in to interview a student, we have to have an administrator. We added that an administrator or a teacher has to be with the student. And the Parents' Bill of Rights for student data and privacy and security it's just an addition of more information that can't be sold to an outside vendor. So I would move that these are on for first reading. We accept them.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, John. All in favor? Aye. And now that we said this about the smoking, look, Scott and I at the meeting discussed that we're going to pass this on to the building committee, that signs could be put outside the buildings and on the property, because a lot of people outside don't realize that they can't not only smoke, but electronic cigarettes, vaping is not allowed anywhere outside on school grounds. And I think
Apparently that had to be explained to a 7th grade parent
it did have to be.
Yeah.
in the building.
So maybe signage would be a good thing. Thank you. New business. Anybody have any new business? No. That brings us to our second hearing of business. At this time, we will entertain comments and questions about any school matters in general. Would anyone care to address the board at this time? I thought Ellie was going to come up.
I'm not talking about masks either. My name is Nicole Alloway, and I am a Southold resident. My daughter is a rising senior in the high school. And I guess my first question is, how do you spell the name of the new guidance counselor?
Oh, I have that.
Because that's actually why I'm here tonight. My daughter has already spent hours interviewing, but first with Mrs. Reardon, whom we had no idea was going out on maternity leave because everyone was on
I'm going to write it down here for you, though. Give it
Thank
to you
you.
when you're done.
On distance learning. So it was after Ellie sat with her for hours to discuss her plans for college, bam, she was gone. Ellie then sat for hours with Miss Messina, who was wonderful. She gave her a lot of guidance. Now she's gone, we didn't know. Right now, Ellie's first deadline for college applications is September 30th. You know, there's a lot of talk about declining registration in the school district, and I would imagine that one of the reasons why school districts are popular, or people would tend to stay in them, is because of the success of their graduates. If you are a high-achieving student in the school, it is becoming more and more difficult to really be able to achieve a successful application at the very competitive colleges. Every application that my daughter has, but for 2, requires a letter from their guidance counselor. And yes, many of these letters are cookie-cutter, pro forma things, but when you're looking at highly competitive schools, every corner of that application counts. And it is extraordinarily distressing that I found out this week, she has no guidance counselor again. So,
She does now, but, and one
well,
of the
this is the
things-
thing, I know now that,
Yes, so one of the things that, she comes with a lot of college experience, three different, would you,
Yes, so Ms. Untitled is actually an adjunct counselor for the Honors College of Southland Community College. So she, without a question, would have the most amount of college experience in terms of the application process, recommendation letters. She looks at thousands of transcripts a year. We purposely hired her because of her experience, coming in at this time of the school year where the applications are revving up without question. And Ms. Messina, who was fantastic, we found out last week that she was accepting a full-time position.
she found out.
and I don't blame her. I mean, I
Nor do we.
understand.
Yeah.
But it's
Yes, so this particular counselor, being that she's an adjunct for the Honors College, she works with many of the schools that you're talking, Suffolk County Community College happens to put kids into Ivy League schools
Yes.
every year. Those are the kids she works with, and those are the college acceptance procedures that she works with and the transcript she reads. And so what we will do is couple her with people like, say, Mr. Rush, that know your daughter, to help make sure that they get what they need going forward in the application process. When it comes to the application process being completed from a guidance program, having met with her myself today, I have no doubt that it will be done as well as it has ever been done. And in some ways, she has expertise that we didn't even have in our district before.
That's great.
The personal approach will come from the people. We have a lot of people here that have worked with your daughter for 6 years just in this building. So the personal part that we will need on some of those will come from them. So it won't be a bland, letter from someone who's known Ally for 3 weeks. It'll be from someone that's known Ally for 5 or 6 years, working with the expertise of someone that's starting with us appointed tonight, but does have a lot of expertise in this area.
I'm very glad to hear that there won't be a huge learning curve.
Mr. Rush and Dr. Simonetti purposely made the college process, because of the person we were replacing and because of the time of the year, the leave replacement that they chose was specifically targeted based on their college acceptance and application experience. Now, it happens to be that she's a lovely person, and I think she's going to make great connections. She was a pleasure to spend time speaking with today. And I think people like that can make connections with our kids in a way that benefits them and our community. So I think we'll get that aspect also, but really, the first call on her was because of her experience with the Honors College and the application process, and because that really is what we need to get going from that position at the beginning. That's the most timely.
Yes,
So
yes.
that was
The
taken.
timing of all of this
Yeah.
is
This
extraordinary.
happened a few years ago, too, as well, and it was just terrible.
Yeah.
That somebody left. That was
Yeah,
It's
so we,
it's hard,
is very
I'm going crazy as it is.
Write down the name, but I think Mr. Rush just gave her to, did you just give Ellie the information?
Mr. Rush gave it to Ellie.
Yeah, okay.
She has the name.
She's got it. She's probably
Okay.
already emailed
Yeah.
her since you've been up here.
And please
She's on top of
also
things,
know
too.
that this is not something that we're grateful for what Mrs. Messina did. She did a wonderful job, and our kids made nice connections with her. She got offered a lifetime job, or the opportunity at one, and we were offering a leave replacement. For her and for her family, I wish her the best, and I'm grateful that she got that opportunity because she did a great job for us. I wish it hadn't been right now. I wish it could have been 6 months from now. But, some of those things are out of our control. We do understand the requirements that we are under the next couple of months, and I believe that everybody will be happy, in a few weeks with the situation that we're in.
All right.
Okay?
All right. Thank you very
And if not,
much.
pick up the phone and call
Oh,
Mr. Rush.
he knows.
Or
He knows I'll be-
call me, and you know what?
I'll be
We'll
up in
fix
the
it. Because
door.
the truth is, this is I've worked in a lot of different places, and this is a very respectful community. I don't mean like meek. People tell me what they believe and what they think, and I'm grateful for that because that means at least they, whether I agree with them or disagree with them, and I do both, there's a certain amount of trust in that sharing process, which I'm grateful for. But there are times where people say to me, this happened all year, and the year's over, and, we can't do anything about it then. So, if it's something, look, if it's, my kids used to say, I don't like this teacher, and I used to say, sometimes in life, we don't like everybody. That's, they're not, you don't like them. That doesn't mean they're not doing their job. That doesn't mean, that's a learning experience. So I'm not saying, pick up the phone every time things don't exactly go our way, but if there's a problem, let us know. And as much as I kid about it, I mean it. We can't help fix it, or we can't try to mitigate it if there truly is a problem. And if there is something that it is just part of daily life, then, that's something we would also share with the person also. So please tell us, as much as I joke, let us know if there's a problem. We wouldn't want something to hinder anybody's opportunity after school here.
Thank you, I appreciate it, and I do try to limit my complaints.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you. Anybody else care to come on up? Hi.
Keith Benson, Southold resident and parent of 2 children in the school district. Just really quick, you mentioned revised and updated policy regarding restrooms. Can you elaborate on what that revision and update
I'll give
exactly?
you a copy of it if you'd like it.
Sure.
We post it on the website. Yeah. Do you want me to give them, do I have one?
Basically, it's single occupancy restrooms have to be marked as gender neutral.
That's the wording that's bolded is what is required to be added in to the regulations.
Okay. Just wanted to get some clarification on it. And then, Dr. Morrow, you mentioned that the state sends down, you used the word guidelines regarding the masks.
They had up until now.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody sent down guidance and guidelines, which, gives the impression that, people have a say. Like, for instance, when we did our 7th grade orientation last night, we set out guidelines because we sent them out prior to the governor speaking, and quite honestly, prior to getting a mandate, which didn't come. It will probably come tomorrow. So we sent out the same guidelines that the CDC had, and they were guidelines. We recommended masks. We said if you're not wearing a mask, we need to social distance, and when people got here, we told them how. And then most people wore masks, some people didn't, because we didn't require them. But that was the CDC guidance, and we hadn't met as a board, and we hadn't gotten given a direction, even though the governor said we'd get one. So there was a lot of guidance given by many different groups throughout the summer. Then the governor yesterday spoke and said, there are going to be mandates put in place. You'll have them by the end of the week. Now, a mandate, for me as a parent, I have different opinions that I will not share as the superintendent of schools. Just like there's things I would do with my children that I won't let your children do. I have that purview as a parent, and you have that purview as a parent. When it comes to school guidelines, if I am mandated to do something by an agency that oversees my license, then I'm obligated to do it. No different than if I was a police officer, an attorney, a nurse, a doctor, anything like that. I don't have issue with people that disagree, but I have guidelines that I'm required to follow in those. Now, like, for instance, the quarantining guidelines and the close contact guidelines make it very hard to keep all your kids in school all year without masks. And I don't think that was an accident. Now, half of those you guys don't see because they don't send them to the state. They are posted, they're all there, but they don't become a big topic of conversation like a guideline or a mandate. But I have to follow them. So if we don't wear masks educationally, we had 30 some odd kids that were positive last year. And because we followed now they weren't guidelines last year, they were mandates. When we followed them, we didn't have to quarantine a tremendous amount of kids. If we had been 3 feet without masks under these guidelines, we would have to quarantine a large number of kids every time. And that means kids can't be in school, which is not, and that's a goal. So there has been a lot of guidance sent down. It's all posted. If you email me, I'll be happy to send you wherever they are. But the truth is, I would wait another day or two, because in a day or two, we're supposed to get this is the way it was, I'm paraphrasing, concrete, easy to follow directives. And then she told us what the directives were going to be. She said, I'm going to require the Department of Health, she's going to mandate the Department of Health to put a mask mandate in place in schools.
Sure. So it was mentioned already tonight that you guys are going to do your best to, obviously think about the students and our children, and I'm appreciative of that as a parent. So would we just assume that, what we hear from the state is what is going to be adopted
You'll
here?
get a set of guidelines that I will send you.
Okay.
That will look almost exactly like this. It'll come out as like a bulleted list, very easy to follow and read, and, I will probably send it tomorrow with the caveat that it may change if they send me, the state doesn't hesitate to send stuff on Sunday.
Sure, I understand that.
Schools open all different times.
Yeah.
Especially.
This year, some schools start the 9th, some start the 1st, some start the 3rd, some start the 2nd. So it runs the gamut. I would like to get something out, I wanted to get something out as soon as we had our board meeting.
Okay.
So ideally, I will probably send a letter, very short, saying we're starting the year very similar to the way we ended, and these protocols will be in place, and we will be participating as normal as possible aside from these protocols. And then I'll send the list of everything. It'll say, no masks have to be worn outside. If people wear masks and have 3 feet is about where our kids sit in a typical classroom, because a desk is about 18 to 20 inches long. So when you have 2 desks and a student, middle body, which is what is measured, is about 3 feet. High school kids may be a little bigger, and, depending on if your tables are those odd, like banana-shaped ones. But we have approximately 3 feet in our normal rooms. That would keep us from having to quarantine people. So that will all be sent home. If there's any question or clarification that people need, they can certainly respond to me. Again, like I said, I'm hoping to send it all home by tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
Come on up. Is that you, Becky? It's so hard to tell with these
I know.
lights.
I wasn't going to speak tonight because I know most of your hands are tied with legality reasons and state mandates, but I just wanted to emphasize what Judy said, because anyone who knows I'm going to get emotional because it was a rough year last year. Anyone who knows my 11-year-old daughter knows she's a sassy, active, loves to be the center of attention. She's a class clown. She loves to make people laugh.
Much like her father.
Much like her dad. Last year was a really rough year. She was riddled with anxiety with the masks and the temperature taking, and couldn't sit next to her friends at lunch, couldn't play with her friends at recess. It was a really, really rough year. To the point where she would make herself physically sick every morning, and because of what the nurses and the mandates and stuff, if she got sick in school, we had to go for a COVID test, which just compounded everything, because she knew that if she got sick, she would have to go for a test. So she didn't want to go to school because she knew if she got upset and she was going to make herself sick again, she'd be sent home and we'd have to go for another COVID test. So she's going into 7th grade, and hopefully it'll be a little bit better this year because she gets to go with her sister. She's not by herself anymore. But is there any way we can get these kids to not have to wear their masks when they're sitting at their desk? They're not, you look at the kid and they're fine. They're trying their best. You ask them, are you okay? They're not going to tell you, no, I'm horrible, I don't like this. They try to appease everybody, and they want to make everybody happy. So instead, it just internalizes. They become riddled with anxiety to the point where literally, she was making herself physically sick every morning. Thankfully, we had an awesome teacher who I would email in the morning, and I'm like, she's coming in late again. Hopefully I can get her there. I'd get her in late. Sometimes she was okay. Sometimes he would text me during the course of the day, said she's doing okay. But please, just to reiterate what Judy said, please, can we get these kids to wear their masks the least amount of possible? And is there any way they can take them off, at least when they're sitting at their desks?
So, once we get my answer to you is going to be based on what I've read and what the governor has said. I don't believe so. With that being said, we will utilize the guidelines to minimize mask wearing as much as possible under the safety guidelines they give us. That we're going to absolutely try to spend as much time outside. If we are permitted to have kids in school, look, I was perfectly happy opening school without masks this year. Again, I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you whether that's safe or not safe. I expect the doctors, to make those decisions, and then, to share that information with us. It seems they've had a hard time with that this year, this summer at least. So I don't want to promise you or tell you I can do anything that we can't do. We will be as unrestrictive as we can within the guidelines that we are given by the state. because I think most of us share similar feelings to you.
Now, is there, I know, understand mandates are not laws. When do we as parents get to push back? When do we get to say, all right, this is not in the best interest of our child?
Anytime that you should contact the governor anytime you feel.
We've done that. That's like a lost cause right now, because the mandates just they don't listen. They don't listen to the science as much as they say they want to listen to the science. They don't listen to the parents. Parenting our kids have been put in the state's hands. We as parents can no longer parent our children. They're restricted in every aspect. They're not being able to be kids anymore.
And I don't, like I said, my personal feelings aside, I don't disagree with, with things that people say. My obligation is to educate our kids under the guidelines that they give me.
Which can't be done if they're so anxious they can't even get to school.
I went on and printed out the SED, the health and safety guide for this school year, just the other day, and I'm looking at it already thinking, based on what was said yesterday, that a lot of this is no longer.
It's null and void, because
it's null and void.
it changes, like you said, at the drop of a hat.
But trust that we will do.
Whatever we're able or allowed to do, we will certainly do.
For the kids, getting them outside, because even when they came and spoke to us at the end of last year, the thing that impressed us, that I think every child that spoke with, they liked being outside, whether they were the elementary kids or the high school kids, they liked being outside, and they learned by being outside. Okay. And we took that to heart. We did an area over here, an outside classroom.
Right outside the seventh grade.
And it actually looks really cool. I just noticed it tonight when I got here. So we're doing the best that we can as well. And as Dr. Morris said, we'll know more in the next.
So if you have a chance when you leave, drive around the bus loop.
Yeah, we were here last night for
Okay.
orientation.
Yeah, so look behind the.
But just like Judy said, please go over that with a fine-tooth comb and just get them in the masks as least amount as possible.
And they'll have mask breaks like they did last year. And
Which it wasn't that
I know,
much.
I know.
But they also, they changed some of the guidelines. 3 feet and no barriers on your desks, and 6 feet and eating with, kids across the table from you. Like it's not ideal and it's not what I would have liked, but it is better than the way we started last year. It's
And we're
less.
hoping the elementary
it's-
kids will
yeah.
get in the cafeteria to eat.
It's
and
less
not-
restrictive than last year, and I'm hoping that, I'm hoping our numbers go down and they make it less and less restrictive, because then we will immediately do the same here. Okay, our decisions are not, they're not based on anything other than the requirements that we have.
Now, is there any way that you guys can push back as a board?
It's interesting. There are school boards and superintendents associations that send out things that, I wouldn't say I always completely agree with. It's easier to give me really kind of strict guidelines. It's not better.
No, and it's easy just to follow them,
Yes.
too. It's harder to stand up and push
Yes.
back.
It's a tough, I would say to you that, I share information with the Department of Health regularly. Some of them enjoy speaking to me, some don't, because I really agree that things are very inconsistent, and that leads me to not know what's right or wrong. But I go back to the point that I'm an educator, so my goal is keep my kids in school. To do that, I have to follow the guidelines that will keep me from having to say, the person that's at 3 feet when you didn't have a mask on and tested positive, so you're out for 10 days. And that is what they've given to me. Whereas if the person that's at 3 feet from you had a mask on, then you can stay in school, and you did. So that is the angle that's where I come from. I want my kids in school, because I think being out of school was a bad thing also for a lot of kids. I don't believe that I could point you in a great direction. Right now, this is being driven by the governor. That's the person that I would approach. She doesn't take calls from me or really listen to much of. They ask us for surveys once in a while, and I'm very candid in what our community. I happen to share similar beliefs to many of the people in our community.
Have you guys put out a survey about masks versus no masks with the parents in the area? It might be something interesting to find out for the future.
Right now, our hands are tied.
And I have to.
No, I understand that.
Just so that you understand, and I've had other people ask or make comments about me when it comes to that. I personally believe it's insulting to put out a survey to somebody and give them the impression that they have say in something that I can't change. When I send a survey to ask about a certain thing, and 90% of the people reply a certain way, then we do it that way. When I ask, if people are comfortable with this because we're allowed to do it, and people all say yes, then I do it that way. For me to ask people if they want their kids to wear masks in school, knowing that I have to make them wear masks in school, I personally, if I was answering that survey, would be insulted if you asked me when I had no say anyway. I have had a lot of people contact me, and I think that we have a very split community.
I would say it's about 50 based on the correspondence that
Could go 5 or 10% either way, but based on a lot of the emails and phone conversations, and I've had a lot of both. And I respectfully believe that everybody's right, because I think everybody's situation is unique, like yours, like mine. I mean, I have medically compromised people in my family. I still don't, know if I believe that we all need to wear masks in school, but I believe that asking you your opinion on how we should do things when unfortunately I can't take your opinion, it could be misleading to people, and in some ways it would be insulting to me if you asked me my opinion knowing that you couldn't take it. So we have talked about surveys, and I'm sure we will again, but I personally would not be inclined in asking people their opinion knowing I can't take it, because I think that is a bit of an insult, so.
Anyone else? Becky Manwaring.
Okay.
Anyone else care to talk? You can come back next month, too. We like having people here, actually. We moved from the library here because we anticipated more people. Last month, nobody but Ellie was here, who did a fabulous presentation. You want to come up and talk, Ellie?
I'll be really quick, I promise. I just want to thank all the BOE members for approving my movie. Very excited to show it at Southold, and I gave you all an invitation if you saw it. And if you want to come, that is wonderful, and I would really like your support. And that's it. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No one else? Okay, that brings us to board member commentary. Mr. Tobin, let's start down there.
First, huh?
I don't know, I always start down there. I think it's no kid here this month.
I don't even know where to begin. About a week ago, all this stuff was supposed to be in the hands of our local districts. And then we had a change up in Albany, and now our hands are tied. So we're between a rock and a hard place, and we're having to make choices that we really don't want to make. I personally think parents have the right to choose. But unfortunately, I think our administration is trying to do the best they can to keep the kids in the classroom and not cohorted, some home, some not home. So I think, and I agree with Judy, we're gonna try to tiptoe on the line as best we can so that these kids don't have to wear the masks when they don't have to. So it's a tough position, and I feel for everybody, and I respect everybody's opinion, but I also believe that people have the right to choose what's best for their kids. And unfortunately, politicians don't agree with us. So we're going to do the best we can to make it as normal as it can be. And Tony's done it, and the staff have done a great job. They did a great job last year, and I think they're going to do another great job this year. So welcome back.
Thank you. Judy?
I'm going to take a few minutes tonight, I'm sorry. And before I start, I do want to just reiterate what Brian said, because I might forget at the end, that I absolutely appreciate our administration, our staff, and everybody who has been working with our kids for the past couple of years. They have our children's best interests at heart. So I'm saying that now, thank you. But this has gotten to be very personal for me. I'm not emotionally driven here, I am data driven here. For I don't know, the better part of 15 years I've been on the school board. I also was a licensed childcare provider for 15, I don't know, years or whatever. And throughout this time, I have watched mandate after mandate after mandate from our New York State government come down the pike. And they are broad brush, one-size-fits-all mandates that do not take into account the differences that we have in New York State all over the place. The fact that we're not a city, we're not a huge suburb, we're not a very, very rural place or whatever. We're all different. And yet these mandates come. Sometimes they come and they cost our taxpayers a lot of money and they're not funded. Sometimes they come without that. Sometimes they are beneficial to our population. Sometimes they're not beneficial to our population, but they're beneficial to some other population. But I have watched for years and years and years, and I'm kind of getting done. Because on the flip side, I have also watched these regulations and things like that include policies, parent involvement policies in school districts, where we have policies on how we are supposed to be including parents in all aspects of our children's education. That's something that happened in the past 15 years I was on the board. In all of my childcare training that I'm required to take, the parents accepting them culturally, accepting differences in beliefs and religions and all different kinds of things is something that I was trained by New York State that I had to do willingly. So here we have this dichotomy as far as I'm concerned, is that we have, this is what we're saying, but this is what they're doing. And I agree with parents. Choices are being taken away from you. Things are being asked of you to do with your children that you don't agree with. And it really hit home for me in 2019 when in 8 hours our New York State legislature went from 8 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, took 8 hours to go from the Health Committee to the Assembly to the governor's desk and took away religious exemptions to vaccines. And that bothered me because religious exemptions are something that are supposed to be or just religion is supposed to be something that we are supposed to be able to practice freely in this country. And right there, they took that away so people could not go to public school unless they are fully vaccinated, regardless of their religious beliefs. That was the final eye-opener for me. So I personally, Becky Van Waring asked if there's something we can do to push back. I personally am going to be writing letters that share data about our community. And I will be writing them and I will be identifying myself as board member. I will not say that I represent my entire school board because I cannot do that. But I will identify myself as a 15-plus year board member, and I will invite any board members who want to read the letter and sign it with me. They can do that, and if they don't feel comfortable, that's fine too. But I am putting that out there. But here's where my feelings come from on this. It's if I believed, based on data, that what our government was asking us to do was the right thing because it was going to protect the health of everybody. And I'm not a doctor, but I do look at data. And just these are the numbers off of Suffolk County site. We have had 451 cases of COVID since March of 2020 in the communities of Southold, Peconic, and New Suffolk. Those are the 3 schools that feed our school district. 451 in, I don't know, a year and a half. We've had total in Suffolk County, 43 total fatalities out of 1.47 million people. And don't get me wrong, I grieve and feel for every single one of those people, okay? Because death is not something we take lightly, but that's 3,443 people over 1.47 million. We keep talking about this positivity rate. The positivity rate right now is 4.2% positive. That is 4.2% positive of the people tested. There were 6,000 people tested yesterday and 312 were positive. So yeah, it's 4% of the people that tested, but again, that's 312 people who tested positive out of 1.4 million people in Suffolk County. So I get a little bit upset when we have these broad brush things. In our community, we have had 451 cases in 15 months. Personally, I think that local control of school boards has been taken away for us to make decisions that make sense for our school and our community. If this virus was ramping up in our community right now, I don't think any of us would disagree that we would have a responsibility to do something different to mitigate it. Government has taken this out of our hands. So I apologize for this, but I needed to say this because I appreciate all of you coming. I appreciate the people who don't agree with a parental choice mask policy. I respect your opinion. I don't agree with it. I respect my board members. We don't all agree on everything, but I needed to say it because I think it needed to be said. So I will be writing a letter to answer your question, and I thank you for giving me the time to speak, and I thank everybody who has worked so hard to get us to at least be able to go to school this year. Thanks.
Thank you. Scott?
Very excited for the start of school. Glad to see the kids out, the preseason games, and the place is starting to come alive. I feel an obligation to tell everybody that when, I guess it was 3-4 weeks ago, when we first got the guidance where the state, the original governor was still governor. We didn't look like he was going to go anywhere. The state health said, we're going to defer to the county health department. The county health department said, we recommend masks. And I sent out a little text saying, recommend is not a mandate, Yahoo. We don't have to recommend masks, or we recommend them, we don't have to mandate anything. And I even had a catchy little tagline for it, you do you, 21-22. And, and the whole deal was going to be, listen, if you feel comfortable in a mask, wear a mask. If you feel comfortable without a mask, don't wear a mask. You do what you think is right for you. The caveat to that being that let's get back to the community that I know we are. You keep your kids home when you're sick, and you respect one another, and you respect their decisions to raise their family as they see fit. And in a subsequent meeting with the superintendent on this policy, I reiterated that, and I said what we should really do is the first person that we catch yelling at somebody for wearing a mask or yelling at somebody for not wearing a mask is make a vicious example of that sort of bullying and intolerance of another community member's point of view, so we can all just, oh, they're serious about that. Unfortunately, that was taken away from us by the new governor, but this is a fantastic community, and we can all trust one another and respect one another, and elections do have consequences, and the policy about the registering kids to vote. We have to get back to, this is done up in Albany. This, as you can see, there's 5 of us up here. 3 of us have already said that we would not have recommended mask, or we would have made a recommendation for mask, not a mandate. So you can see, you weren't getting a mandate if it was left up to us. I can't speak for John or Paulette, but 3 out of the 5 have already said we weren't going to do that. But like Judy said, again, it was yanked away from us by Albany. We're up here doing the best we can. We love Southold. We love all our neighbors, and we take this job seriously. And the only way we're going to change it is if we get people involved at this level, at the local level, at the state level, and change what's going on up there. Becky asked about writing a letter. There's 126, school districts in Nassau and Suffolk County. Each board writes a letter. It's 128 letters. There's 700 and something students in this school district. If half the families write a letter, for or against, whatever, everybody write a letter. Fight it out up there, but we have to have representation that listens to us. I mean, if I could have my entire life ruled by town hall, I'd do it, because I can walk right into town hall and redress my grievances. But it doesn't work that way. But we should all get involved, get our kids involved, get our family involved, because it's our shop to run here. And I think we've let people take a little too much about unfunded mandates and this, that, and the other thing. And once in a while, I think they need to have their chains snapped. But we do listen and we do care, and regardless, it's going to be a great year. I'm done.
Well, sad that we're still dealing with COVID 18 months later. I feel bad for the younger kids particularly. I have 4 boys, they're older, in college or grad school, so it's a whole different situation for them. I think if I was on a school board up in Queens or Brooklyn and we were all densely packed together, I might feel differently about masks, but we have the luxury of space here. We don't have a big enrollment. We have 26 acres. We have big wide open spaces. So I really thought we could have done something different, and kept people safe and kept people in school, but we're not being given that option. So we're gonna do the best we can. I mean, I've lived in Southold since '94. It's a really special place. People are respectful and kind, and we got to take care of each other, and we're going to do the best we can. And I certainly don't like being told what to do, and I have to wear a mask at work. I don't like it. I hate it. I have trouble communicating with my patients, particularly the older ones, and I'm sure, I'm living it, and we're going to take it a week at a time, a month at a time. Hopefully, maybe more people will be vaccinated. There'll be less disease in our community. I hope things change. I hope this thing just finally runs its course, because I'm burnt out. I'm tired. But I do have a lot of confidence in our staff, our community, our students, our parents to respect everybody and take care of each other. And we're going to get through this. It's just, unfortunately, going on a lot longer than any of us ever anticipated. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Well, there's really not much left to say, except a year ago in March, we all went home. Kids went home, and school was going to open the next week or 10 days later or 2 weeks later, and here we are. Last August, we were here going, we're really going to open in a few weeks? Are we really going to be able to? Do you remember that, guys? Like, we're really going to be able to open? And darn it, we did it, and we did a really, really fine job thanks to our staff. They were amazing. I have the same, I think confidence is a great word, I have the same confidence in our staff this year that we'll get through it again, and I would just ask everybody to be kind and patient about it. The comment that Dr. Morrow said a few minutes ago about reasonable people can disagree. When I was first elected to the board, back when the dinosaurs were roaming, I guess, Dr. Gallagher was the superintendent here, and I got sworn in the next day from the election. And he said, I'm just going to give you one piece of advice as a board member. And I said, what's that? And he was a man of few words anyway, but I just expected a little bit something. He said, just remember, reasonable people can disagree. And I've kept that in so many different aspects of my life, and it has taught me so much, those simple, simple words. And we don't always all agree. Judy and I know about letter writing because I don't know how many years ago we had that group out here because how did it start? It started because of unfunded mandates. It wasn't just the mandates. The mandates got us ticked off, but the unfunded part really hit it hard. Budgets were tight, and they're telling us you have to do this, and they weren't giving us money to do this, so it was compounded bad enough you're telling us to do it. So we had a group. We got together with people from Mattituck School and Greenport. We met at Cutchogue School. We tried a letter. Some of you may have been around then. We tried a letter writing campaign, and it goes to Scott's point that coming from parents, coming from community members, I believe is a lot more effective than coming from school boards because there's so much fewer, there's fewer than us. You write the letters. I know, not that I don't, I know that we will do what's best for your kids this year, whatever it takes, whatever we can do. I think we kind of showed you that last year without very little guidance. It was kind of like, okay, now this week you're going to do this week you're going to do that, and somehow we did what we were told. I would refer to him as the emperor in Albany would tell us what we have to do. I would say based on the correspondence that I've seen personally or from Dr. Mora, it's 50-50 amongst letters that I've read from parents and community members, pro-mask, anti-mask, and I think that's a great thing. And all of them were so respectful, so respectful. That's another great thing. And so many thank yous in the letters. Thank you to the staff for what they did, not us. We just said it, what they did to provide a safe environment for our students and our staff, last year. So I would just ask you to stay involved and come to meetings and share with us your thoughts. We're not always going to get it right. We're not always going to make everybody happy. I expected that, we'd have, if the mandate hadn't come down, we would have probably had a lot more people here, and 50% of the people would leave unhappy, and 50% of the people would be happy because they got their way. I just ask that we respect each other and respect the people within the school district that are going to have to abide by these rules, if you will. Like we ask our children to abide by the rules, the adults have to abide by the rules as well. I thank you for coming. I thank you for your letters, those that we received. I invite you to come back and to stay involved. And I guess, I had one other thing. Ellie Alloway here is doing an amazing thing for her Girl Scout project. Some high level, the highest level of Girl Scouts, she presented to us last month. It was amazing. It's just an example of one of our students from the school district that we're always so proud of. And she's doing a documentary on 9/11. Is that the right word? And I invite you all to look for it because it's really, really, really good. It was written here early, Ellie, so that's why I had to go around it. I thank you all for coming. We need a motion to adjourn, please. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.